Well, I think my parents moving there in the 80s, it was actually really cheap. It was an undesirable neighbourhood. And so the point of being there in the 80s was that we could afford it and everyone could afford it, which I think made the community really diverse.
We moved there in 1980. We really wanted to live in Ponsonby, but it was too expensive. Grayland seemed further out in those days.
It felt like it had some purpose. You know, it wasn't just a suburb, it felt like more of a community maybe.
It seemed Grayland, Grey seemed the name for it, I thought, at the time. It's hard to imagine how run down a lot of those houses were, like sort of something out of a ghost story or something.
When I went to school, you go to catch the bus on Surrey Crescent, most people were just in their undies, doing the shopping, in their shorts or in a towel, and like some of them aren't wearing shoes. For me it just felt right, and people weren't so flash, and it was comfy. You could feel comfy with your neighbours.
We had a dog, and then every morning when I'd walk to school across the park, and my dog would leave, and quite often leave the house at the same time as me and go in the other direction, and that was no thing. It was, you know, having 2 different days. But, you know, it would be dangerous sometimes. These packs of dogs surround you in the park or whatever. It was an out-of-control dog problem.
You used to have that paddling pool there, but no one used to look after it, and taking kids there for a swim, and then the big kids would poo in the pool and it was still floating around. And you'd have little kids that were maybe 4-year-olds looking after these little wee kids that were maybe, like 2-year-olds or something. I suppose they're first noticing it changing maybe after we'd been there for 10 years, maybe 1990. But even then it was quite a slow change, because Ponsonby became very quite flash and people were going, Grayland's the next suburb, but it didn't really happen that quickly.
In the 80s there were still a lot of quite big factories in the area, like the Sleepyhead Bed Factory, places like that, inner cities factories which were still operating and employing a lot of people, but sort of by the 90s it was, most of them were shutting down or had shut down, and I think that, like I know, a lot of people I know moved from, at that time, out to GI because it was kind of like, there were still factories there was still work.
Our house in Grayland just got worth so much. When we sold it, we got, you know, what seemed like a really big, huge house. But then, of course, they went up a lot after that, too.
Last time I had a flat in Grayland was probably about 97 or something, down Rose Road there. And it was just too expensive, and there wasn't really any point of being there.
Yeah, the changes I've had to make have become more difficult. Not just the prices, because that's normal life, and anywhere you live you're going to have to pay more or less. But the small changes I guess I've made is the way that I take to the streets, rather than feeling, I don't know, a certain fear. Now I feel a different fear.
Yeah, no, it's sort of a bit of a shame in the way it went in a way. It's sort of like people liked what was there, but then they sort of destroyed it, really.
In order to be a part of it, you have to be a part of it. Otherwise, you're going against the grain. And that's what the problem with these new people is I feel like our fur is rubbing each other the wrong way. I feel like it's up to both parties to remedy that.